Wisdom Exchange TV. My name is Suzanne F Stevens, Chief Edge Optimizer for the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives. One of our key initiatives is the Ignite Excellence Foundation, which invests, inspires, and develops future African women leaders by providing them tertiary education. In that spirit, we produce Wisdom Exchange TV, where we interview leading ladies from Africa in politics, business, education, and philanthropy. These women are the change agents, and they're pioneers and trailblazers and leaders of many. Today, we're in South Africa, in Durban, and we're with a fantastic leading lady. And I think we're in for a bit of a treat today, as we are with Gcina Mhlophe, who was born in 1958, is a well-known South African freedom fighter, activist, actor, storyteller, poet, playwright, director, and author. Storytelling is deeply traditional activity in Africa, and Gcina is one of the few women storytellers in a country dominated by males. She does her most important work through charismatic performances, working to preserve storytelling as a means of keeping history alive and encouraging South African children to read. She tells her stories in 4 languages: English, Afrikaans, Zulu, and the last one is Xhosa. She has received 5 honorary doctrines. Gcina has worked tirelessly for the last 11 years running Mother of Books literacy campaign to help make South African a reading nation. It is such an honor to meet you, not only because of what you do, but so many people are inspired daily by what you do and the stories that you provide. What's the catalyst to become a storyteller?
To become a storyteller, you need to love stories. And in my case, I was very lucky at a very young age to have a grandmother who was a master storyteller. Children in my neighborhood would beg their parents to let them come and spend the night at my home so they can hear my gogo telling stories.
Why did you decide to take that art and actually make it an international sensation?
I first wanted to just be a writer. And when I was 17 years old, I wrote my first poem. And I was inspired by a traditional praise poet when I was living in the Eastern Cape at the time, at high school. And I hated my voice. I prayed very hard for a sweet womanly voice, which never happened. But for me, storytelling gave me back the love of my voice and being able to express what I feel inside. Not only do I tell stories of long ago, I also tell what I call history telling, and also do contemporary stories that connect me with different people in my country and in other parts of the world. I've been lucky to travel for the past 29 years in different parts of the world. And when I share stories, I know that there's this thing that is so universal. It is easy as water. Nobody can live without water. And every human being has got a story to tell.
Let's look at that. As far as every human being has a story to tell. We all have a story. But not everybody wants to listen to our story. So what do you do to make your stories compelling to your audience?
The operative word in my work is sharing. Sharing these stories. And one of the most asked questions is, why do I tell stories? I tell stories in order to wake up stories in other people. That probably is what is compelling, because my job is to get on that stage or under the tree or in that village to wake up stories in other people, and I know I can. And I'm very excited about that on a daily basis.
No matter if you're a politician, a philanthropist, an educator, or a business person, you can use stories in the ways of communicating. So I want our audience to think about that as we're learning how you tell stories, to take some of that information and utilize that in their everyday practices. How do you think people can use stories in order to help their communications come to life?
Select a story you love, a story that works for you. Because when you tell a story you love, you put everything into it. Now you're a business person, or you are a leader who's trying to share an idea or an ideology with people, or you are a salesperson. When you bring a story into it and you explain things, if it's something that you truly believe in or something that you want to sell to others, you need to make sure that you know everything about it before you can have that passion that takes you to those people's minds, and they see themselves living that, or doing that, or buying that, or accepting that.
Having a good story, what else does it take to be able to communicate effectively that story?
Be yourself. Some people see a good storyteller doing something in a particular way, and they say, I want to tell stories like, you can't tell stories like so-and-so, you can tell stories like yourself. I've met amazing storytellers from Chile, I've met storytellers from Lebanon, I've met storytellers from Iran. I don't want to be like them, I want to be like Gcina Mhlophe, that's me. And I tell stories the way that I know how to, and I put all of myself into that story. So that's what I would say to anybody who wants to tell a story. Tell it like yourself, and make sure that you know everything that you need to know. So that when you put all of those things, it's like a recipe. When you're putting all the right ingredients, and then the food comes out, and the smell takes you, and then the taste, and oh my goodness, the story needs to do that to the people that are listening to it.
What goes into that recipe?
Once you've laid down the foundation, and then you're going to lay the story on that foundation, and then you start putting the ingredients. If it is a building, you make sure that the door is in the right place, the windows are in the right place. You make sure that you've chosen the type of roof you want. You want the look that you want, or the house that's going to house a certain number of people, or maybe there is an old person who needs to live in this house. We need to make sure that that old person is going to be comfortable in that house. In the story, that old person or young person who's bouncy, who doesn't need to get hurt or whatever, you need to make sure that in that story, the content is communicating what you want to communicate. So that introduction, that way of introducing the story, and then bringing, this is the plot, these are the characters, this is the time and place we want, and then you say, uvutonda, but when it ripens to say, oh, that's it, I get it. Or another person who hears the story for the first time saying, you know, I sat in that audience the whole time you were telling that story, and I thought, I don't know how she selected me to tell that story to me, to be able to give that story as a gift to your listeners. If you are a manager, you want him to come up with this new strategy for this company, you want a way to put it. You can sit and write a long speech and then read it well if you're super educated and you speak big English and you stand in front of people and then you say it with these wonderful words and you quote this politician over there and that great author there or a philosopher over there. But maybe you can take a story and say, this is what leads me to choose this concept, that this concept is going to take my company to the future. And when you bring that story, you know for a fact nobody will forget why this concept for this company.
And something really important you're saying is you're creating the foundation, but the framework. You're trying to get your audience to visualize themselves almost in that story,
yes.
or at least visualize everything that you're describing in that story. You're also very passionate.
Yes.
So, you know the saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Correct.
So what are some of the techniques that you use in telling your story to engage your audience?
First thing I ask for the technicians, please, can I see my audience? Because I want to interact with my audience. I'm not standing on stage and then bright lights, everyone sees me and I'm speaking to the blackness out there. I don't want the blackness out there. I want people. I want to see my audience. I interact with them. Some people watch me performing and they say, what you give on that stage? I say there's a circle. The circle is completed several times. I give out, the audience gives back to me. I give out and they give back to me. And sometimes I'm in the wrong place on a certain day. You're not always tops.
Yeah.
There's a day when I'm just not myself. And I've got a performance. This past Saturday, I had a show. And those people were, the moment I walked in, I came through the back door and the stage is over there. I thought I'm going to walk in and just survey the room. The moment I walked in and one person turned around, the chaos that broke in the room, the speaker at the time had to just hold it a bit. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to tiptoe and hear what the person was saying and what's happening, just immediately the commotion. And I wasn't feeling right. Not only have I been traveling to 3 different provinces in 1 week, it's been going and going, coming back late. And when you are going into that space where everyone is so happy to see you and they know that they want to hear what you have to say, you've got to center yourself. One of the things that is typical in my family is the gift that is the song. Song is the glue that puts everybody in the Mhlophe family together. So I decided that as soon as it was my time to stand up and speak, I walked onto that stage and I started a song. A song that I know that these people are going to come up and sing with me. And the whole auditorium rose and we sang. Song is another thing that just places me in the center of where I want to be spiritually, as well as this human being who deals with a universal audience all the time.
Brilliant way of doing it. And what I like what you said, and for many reasons, but I also do the same thing. I don't like speaking in the dark. When I do a keynote, I have to see my audience.
Thank you.
And the fact that people are giving back to you then allows you to give more. It's when they're not giving back to you. Things go on in organizations, things goes on with the audience, they're not as receptive, and still being able to give out.
That's right.
So how do you do that? How do you still give out? Have you ever been in an audience where they're just something, who knows, the president could have gotten up just before you and said, hey, you're all get a price cut, your salary is over, oh, and by the way, look at our next speaker. So how do you deal with when you don't feel the energy from the audience?
When you don't feel the energy. You feel like you give more. You feel like you give more and you give more of yourself, and those are the exhausting performances. The ones where they give back, you're giving with joy because the energy is just coming back and coming back. And that one where there's hardly anything coming back at you, that's not an easy one, but everyone's going to go through that. But I give more of myself, and I am as sincere as I would if it was an audience that was giving back. I am as sincere at every performance.
And you know, that is such an important point, is that you just keep giving.
Yes.
You can't let your audience affect you.
No, you can't. You can't let your audience affect you.
Yeah.
And also because you know why you are doing what you're doing, you see? That's the difference. And that's one of the reasons why when you've got downtime, you need to have really downtime to replenish. And I hate being late. I don't like being late. I want to be on time, and when I say yes, I mean yes. You've got to be reliable. When people want you to do something, if you can't do it, you must say no. If you can, you say yes and do it. Deliver. That's my name on the line. I want people to know that when Gcina Mhlophe says she's going to do something, she will. So I'm not feeling good at all. And not only am I tired and so much has happened, and I arrive in Pretoria and they're just having dinner and I'm thinking, you know what, my basket is empty. This is a fact. My basket is empty. As soon as it was time for me to speak at 8 o'clock, I stood in front of, and it was all women. The Bishop Tutu Peace Trust had women, they came from different businesses and different levels of success, and it was a really important group of women. And so I said, ladies, I want to tell you the truth here. The Mhlophe's basket is empty. I've flown all the way from Durban, and I'm standing in front of you. I'm supposed to be bringing gifts, some level of wisdom and something to share with you. Now I bring an empty basket. What does that say? And that's how I started my speech. That has to do with that sincerity and that honesty. And maybe it happened for a reason, that I had all this chaos so that I can illustrate with something I know and feel that we people who are successful, we people who are in leadership positions, we people who are prominent and visible to society, sometimes our baskets are empty. We don't have anything to give. It is time to do Operation Lie Down, woman. Be quiet. Be still. Replenish yourself. Fill the basket again. And the discussion that evening was amazing. People just spoke. The audience participation was out of this world. It would never have been like that if I had come the usual Gcina Mhlophe in charge.
Well, and you know, I'm getting shivers. Look it, I'm actually getting shivers because what a more appropriate audience to have your basket empty than a group of women.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of times our baskets are empty.
Yes.
With all the demands placed upon us as mothers, wives, and leaders in many capacities in the community and at home and etc. So what a great story. Is there any advice that you have on how to, you know, just be authentic and be yourself and be present on how to construct the right story? And how long should that story be?
The length of the story I cannot say. When you are still insecure, I think the shorter the better. But tell a story about something that you know about. Not everybody feels comfortable telling autobiographical stories. but it can be a story that you know about a topic that you know about. And also make sure that when you are telling that story, you are using a language that you're comfortable with. That's another thing as well we have to deal with in this African continent, where we're using colonizers' languages. When you are telling a story in your own language to an audience that understands that language, oh my goodness, that's just delicious. It is delicious. And then you come to the English language. And if you are comfortable with it, or French or Portuguese, depending on where in Africa you are, we need to know that you're telling that story in a language that maybe is not easy for you, but borrow from the idioms from our own people, because they are so rich and you can't find them anywhere else. I would say also, the story that you choose to tell, make sure that it is succinct and it is to the point and it is to what you want to communicate. Exactly what you want to communicate. It shouldn't be just a story to while away time, because they said you must speak for 40 minutes. That doesn't work.
Yeah, I often refer to that as story point relevance. You know, why is it relevant to your message that you're giving? See, one of my observations, and I've had the pleasure of working with pastors throughout Africa.
Major storytellers.
Yeah, often with no point. So, and I've also had the pleasure of working with people that are trying to raise funds in Africa as well. And one of the things I have noticed is sometimes the story is so long that not only the message gets lost, but people don't know what to do as a result of that story.
Yeah.
Is it just a story for the sake of a story? Or you know, so I'm curious on, now you're hired as a storyteller, but when you're giving a story,
Yes.
do you have an objective with that story? And what is that objective if you have one?
If I'm hired as a storyteller to come and entertain, oh my goodness, my bag is overflowing with stories, that's easy. But if I have to communicate a certain message, I want to select a story that is going to ripen or climax with the message that I want to put across. Another situation is that I've got to communicate something and I think, you know what, I can't think of a story that I know or that I have. I write a brand new story that's going to have all the elements that I want and put that across. When I had to do the reveal of the logo at the World Cup in Germany 2006, I had to write something brand new about this African calabash. And when I went on stage and presented, knowing that not only are presidents of different countries and the top people in FIFA and the sports ministers, everybody was in the audience is like, wow, big people. And then billions of people are watching around the world. That 15 minutes when I'm on stage, I'm representing my country. If I collapse on that stage or I talk nonsense and waffle, I'm a famous South African waffler. You know?
Not a good marketing.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work for my country. So that's when sometimes you're so patriotic about what you're doing. You're carrying this message for your country. Sometimes it is a brand message for a particular company. Or maybe it is at a school where they say, this is what we need to communicate to these young people at the school. So I choose a story, or I write a brand new story and say, this is what I want to put across. When I put it across and I'm seeing my audience and I watch it settling bit by bit, I watch it settling and I watch them leaning forward and I watch them getting it. It's like you've been cooking something and finally you lay it on the plates and hand it over and they are with you. And that's wonderful to be able to do that. So for me, it's important that I'm very selective about the story that I'm choosing to tell, and also when I've selected that story, to work hard to make it really, really reach the audience the way I wanted it to.
When you don't have an objective, when you're hired by an organization, but they just said we're hiring you for story.
Let's have some fun.
Do you create an objective in that story?
It is amazing when I'm asked to do that, because I get there, I share songs, I do a poem, I do a story, I do anecdotes, idioms. One of my favorite idioms, my father said it so many times when I was a child, and I thought, that's enough, we get the picture. And I didn't get it until I was an adult. My father always said, ayikho inkomo yobuthongo. You can never earn a cow through sleeping. So if you want something, get up and do it, woman. So as a child, I listened to this saying over and over and over, and it made sense only when I was an adult. And I share such idioms as well with my audience. But the roundness of it should be about something. I create an objective.
How do you start structuring to make sure that objective is actually achieved? So how do you start making the story to make sure that objective is achieved?
I want to encase it in the package that is the story of long ago. I like to package it in that sense because sometimes it also surprises the audience, and there's nothing wrong with surprise now and again. So I encase it in this, and then I put the information that is needed, that is very, very important, that is real fact about this particular subject we're dealing with, put all the facts in there, and then wrap it up as a gift and put a bow and hand it over to the audience. So it's very, very important first to know that I've got the encasing, and then I've got the facts, all the things that are needed to be in that story, and then find a way to wrap it up in a beautiful way. If it's something that needs to be really, really strictly serious, you need to do that as well. There are days over the weekend, a friend of mine was here with her daughter, and we were, I don't know how we ended up on this subject, but it was about Freedom Day last year. She was saying she was sitting with her husband watching me on stage. She is serious! She's serious! They kept, I said to her, you have no idea how angry I was. I was boiling with anger inside when I walked onto that stage. But I had to rein in my anger and get on that stage and deliver a message to say what I want South Africa to hear, because somebody has to say it, okay? And luckily I'm not a card-carrying member of any political organization and I can say it. So there are certain times we need to get there and say what you have to say.
So you didn't package that in a story?
No, I did not package it in a story. I wrote a poem, and then when I got on that stage, and what happened before I went on stage got me so worked up. Damn, it was so ready. It was like putting the petrol in my engine.
Now, I've read that you see storytelling as important for culture, and how do you see, and why do you feel it is so important to preserve that culture?
You know, my full name is Nokugcina, meaning the last girl. And because of the work that I do, when I go to rural areas, I've been on radio for 7 years, telling stories almost every weekend. And so people know my voice, even though they're not show off my face. And because I've got a thick voice, they expect a big woman to rock up, wear my boobs, wear my hips, wear this big Gcina Mhlophe they expect to see. And here I am. Anyway, I arrive in rural towns and villages. People say, you followed your name, Gcina Masiko. They think that's my name. Gcina Masiko means the keeper of heritage. And over time I thought, you know what, I love my new name. And it's like being awarded a name by your own people. And so I have started a new organization this year. It's called Gcina Masiko Arts and Heritage Trust. And storytelling is a wonderful vehicle to preserve our heritage. Through storytelling, the stories of long ago that we need to keep and take with us, with all the lessons and the values that we need to take to the future. And then the history telling. It's so important for our people's stories to be heard. To be heard again and again. You know, my all-time heroine, her name is Nokugcina Elsie. When I talk of somebody that I look up to, somebody who was amazing, and I'm so glad that she was born in my country, Mama Nokugcina Elsie. I wrote a poem in her honor as well. The day before I met her, I performed it for 80,000 people at a stadium. The next day, she got her daughter to phone me, and she said, you know, Mama wants to meet you and hear this poem, because she arrived late at the stadium. She wants to hear this poem, you know. And so I went to this friend's house, and I stood there. She's sitting in the couch, and I'm standing here performing like what I would call one of the best performances of my life. Performing it for her, Mama Nokugcina. So it's that thing of the heritage, of sharing the stories of people that have been trailblazers, the leaders and pathfinders. We need to share those stories. And some of them are stories of ordinary people who do extraordinary things in our country, in our continent, in our world. So the keeping of the heritage for me is about that. And also, it is about ways of doing things. Ways of doing things. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the way we carry ourselves. There are certain things that I don't do now that I'm the mother of Kwezi. You see? I'm the mother of Kwezi. It's a status thing. In other countries in Europe, the people say, don't you have your own name? Why are you the mother of Kwezi? It's an honor to be somebody's mother. They chose me to be Kwezi's mother. And her name, by the way, is Noma Kwezi, the morning star. That's my daughter. It's like a brand new beginning in my life. A morning star came into my world. So the ways of doing things, carrying yourself as a mother, as a father, as a leader, as a role model. There are African ways of doing those things, and it matters the way we carry ourselves. That's about carrying and keeping our heritage.
Do you think there are some stories that, and some heritage that we should leave behind?
The belief system, I don't want to bring it forward, yes. But certain stories get told so that we don't forget. So that we don't forget where we come from. Many people in South Africa now, hey, black people always going on about apartheid, forget and forgive and forget. Forgive and forget. Who invented those twins? Who invented those twins of forgive and forget? Who was the mother of forgive and forget? So you can't forgive and you can't forgive if you choose to forget. You need to remember what you are forgiving. And the person who says forgive and forget needs to know what was wrong in the first place.
Yeah.
Without feeling like I'm laying the guilt on you. Certain things need to be talked about. So it's curious what you laid behind and what you bring back and how you do it.
Yeah.
We need to be honest, yes. We need to move forward, yes. But certain things we need to talk about in context.
The Mother of Book Literacy campaign. I know you spent quite a bit of time on this.
Yeah.
Now, what can parents do to engage children in stories?
Parents need to engage children in stories and in reading. We need to read. Literacy is a major thing in our lives. We need our children to read, our children to hear stories so that they know how to tell stories. And you need to plant something in the gardens of their minds, those stories. And not only do we want to tell stories of long ago, but also it could be stories of our own experiences, so that children really get to know their parents. And it's wonderful for them to know certain things, so that because one day you say to a child, I don't want you doing that, they don't know why. And why is a very important question, a question called why. And when they know where you're coming from, sometimes you say no just once, and they get the picture. So I think for storytelling to go forward, we need to share stories with our children and with the young in our communities, in schools, but also to write them down so that they've got that we keep them for posterity. Another thing about NOZINCWADI, Mother of Books, it's about visiting schools for young people to meet and interact with people that are prominent in society that they think they would never meet. Some of the places we go to, people never in their lives thought they would see me in real life and touch me and spend the whole day. When we go to visit schools, we're not in a hurry. We spend the whole day with them. We tell stories and share and read. And then, especially high schools, I make time for question and answer session so that they ask questions. Some of the things they are going through, I went through too. And this thing called poverty, it was there in biblical times. It's going to be with us for a long time. So I want young people to know where I'm coming from. I come from a very poor background, but hard work and the love of education took me to where I am today. And also because there's another saying, umuntu ufunda aze afe. A person learns until they die. I never stop learning. And I share with young people where I come from, how hungry I still am to learn, and the fact that if a nobody like me can be somebody, so can you be. That's the gospel I preach. Because if Gcina Mhlophe can be who I am today. Goodness me, what's stopping you? Go for it. Study. Work hard. Have a vision. Reach for it. And please don't miss opportunities on the side. Grab them. There are all kinds of opportunities along the way. And if you are just single-minded, you might think because there's a bump over here and you fall down and you think, oh, it's the end of me. Or there's a detour. Accept the detours of life. There are detours all the time. And sometimes they are for a reason. When you come back to your goal, to where you really want to be, it's so much brighter. So much more exciting, it's so much more fulfilling because you took the detours of life. Because you fell and dusted yourself and stood up. Anybody who's successful today is not successful because they didn't fail. It's about how they stood up after failing. NOZINCWADI has to do with that as well. Not only do I want them to read, not only do I want them to share and read and hear stories, I also want them to have a vision. To go somewhere because they are the future leaders of this country, future leaders of this continent.
Now, what has been the most significant impact do you think you've made so far in your career today?
Sometimes I meet a young person, or younger than me, and they say to me, you know, I remember exactly what you said in an interview in 1987. 1987, I don't have a clue. Where was I? What did I say? They say I live by what you said on that day. I was so grateful that I was listening to the radio on that day. And the number of people that I meet, young people in different professions that say, I believe in what you said and I'm so grateful that I got to hear you, and it carries them forward. I might not be their biological mother. I might not be their older sister or their cousin or their aunt, but I'm related to them because I believe in making a difference in this life. And if I make a difference in their lives, goodness, I'm very, very grateful and humbled by it. Because I'm just living my life most of the time. I'm just driven, I'm just passionate, and I know the continent needs people like me. So I can't let down like this. I'm going to rise up all the time and make a difference.
You've been telling stories for how many years?
I've been in theater since 1982, and then in 1991 I jumped ship and I went into full-time storytelling, and people thought, oh my goodness, she was working in Chicago, she was working in Knoxville, maybe she's doing drugs. Maybe she's on drugs. There was lots of whispering around in Johannesburg. And then other people were saying, Sister, if you got problems, you know, you can talk to me. Because they thought I was definitely losing it. And I told them, yeah, I'll talk to you if I get problems, but for now, I'm very happy. So I went into full-time storytelling. And there were things that were not working right for me in the theater world. Even though I was collecting awards and very, very successful and I was at the top of my game in the theater world, but there was something. And I kept saying to my director, my mentor, Mr. Barney Simon, I said to him, you know, I'm flying with crooked wings. Kind-hearted man that he was, he never asked me what I meant, because I didn't have a way to elaborate at the time. But as soon as I got into storytelling, I felt like I'm straightening up and I'm flying right. This is me, this is the reason why I'm here. And so I've been telling stories since 1991, full-time storytelling. Now and again I go back to theater, I write a script, I direct a show and but I'll always be a storyteller and I'll always be a writer.
Why are your wings flying right now? What does storytelling give you that theater didn't?
Storytelling gives me the direct interaction with the audience, with the people I'm talking to. I can do the best character of whatever play you give me, whether I'm in Brecht or I'm in whatever. I can do the best that I can because I know I'm a good actress. I can act that role. And then there's that blackness out there. You know about the blackness out there when the lights are blasting you and you can't see the audience, and then you change and then you go to the dressing room and come out as your real self, and somebody wants to buy you a drink and, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I like that character. You know, I saw it as well in Mombasa and I... Nice, you know, nice audience. But when I'm in storytelling, I'm straightening up and I'm flying right and I'm dealing with the audience directly. And the people I meet, they meet me and I meet them. And I love that.
So if there's one thing that you would attribute your success to, a characteristic trait or something that happened in your life,
I would attribute my success to the fact that when I do something, I want to do it well. Really, really, when I do something, I want to do it well. And also, I think everything that has happened in my life leading up to the time when I could be called successful, no matter how difficult those things were, they were preparing me, chiseling me, shaping me to be the person I was going to be. And I'm still growing. I think my success has to do maybe with the open-mindedness. I'm very open-minded, and you throw something at me, and I've never done it before. But I think, whoa, sure thing, I can. I go for it. I go for it. Anytime, I go for it. So, I want to do it well. Not only am I going to do it, but I'm going to do it well.
But what is the most challenging aspect of your career?
The most challenging aspect of my career, I think, it's the fact that you end up doing several things at the same time. And I think it has taken away a little bit from, I'm at a place now, I'm 54 years old. I'm at a place where the writer and the performer are saying, so, who's going to win over here? Who's winning over here? And I don't want one of them to win. I want both of them to coexist. So I'm struggling with that balance in my life right now, because I never want to give up writing. I always want to be a writer as well. But the performer says, I'm bigger, I'm shinier, I'm more famous, hello. And the writer says, imagine yourself without me.
Yeah.
You're a brilliant car, but where's the engine?
Yeah.
So I need the engine to be always in the car. So that's the balance that I have. And the lucky thing is that also, that's a challenge. But the positive side of things is that I interact with such stunning people in different parts of the world and in my country. And my family, my daughter, my husband, my niece, and what, they've had to interact with these different kinds of people they never would have met if I didn't do the kind of work that I'm doing. When I am not working, I have got downtime, I'm here, I'm a homebody. My family needs to eat food that I have cooked. I play in the peace garden. I read, I relax, I hear what my child has to say, because I love just being with her. I feel like a very lucky woman to be called a mother.
So how do you deal with that challenge?
I select times when I think, okay, this is time for the writer now. Sometimes it's very difficult because I'm a freelance artist as well. But one of the good things that has happened in the world, and I'm so grateful, whoever came up with this idea, I don't know who did it, but I'm grateful, is the person who invented artist residencies. The musical show Mata Mata, I never would have finished it if I didn't get a chance to go to the Civitanova Center in Italy. I sat there. Every single day, every hour, every minute belongs to me. I can just sit and write. It's quiet. No diary, no telephone, nothing. Wow. And now, the book I'm working on, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. I'm the artist in residence there. I'm going back to finish the book early next year, and I'm very grateful for that.
So have you ever done an initiative from a charitable perspective or in growing your business or in writing that didn't quite work the way you intended it to work? And if you can think of something, what would you do differently now as a result of that learning?
Some years ago, I was a resident director at the Market Theatre, and I kept suggesting this is not working, I'm suggesting this is not working, and I'm not sure why, but no budget, no budget, no budget. And that guy called Budget, when I meet him one day, box him. Anyway.
I'm going to steal that, I like
Budget.
that.
Box him. Anyway, at the end of the year, they say to me, you must do a show. You've got a slot for you. No, I don't write musicals. I don't write comedy. What are you talking about? The December slot is mine. But I couldn't turn back. You heard what I said? You give me an opportunity, I grab it. So I wrote a script called Somdaka. And Somdaka was based on a true life character, but I didn't know him well enough. I just love his name and the way that he was. So it was based on this man that I knew in the Eastern Cape, and then I put different things to it. And deals with mining, it deals with a man who loves rural life and what. And I put the show on stage knowing that it might not work. It's December, people want comedy, people want musicals, people want something light, you know. And I put it on and people kept coming to the show, kept coming to the show, kept coming to the show. It was very well attended, but something I didn't think about. And every day when he turns around on stage with a hanger and twirls the outfits that he designs. He ended up designing clothes and marrying a young girl who was much more educated than him, and working together, partnering. And he twirls a dress on stage and he says, look at it, it's got a Somdaga touch. Again and again, he makes something and it twirls on stage. Look at it, it's got a Somdaga touch. People assumed that backstage we had suitcases full of nice clothes. So they came back, they made a U-turn after leaving the theater, came back with money, cash. They want to buy the Somdaga touch clothes. I never thought of that, I never saw that coming. It shows how unbusinesslike I am. So I need sometimes to just see those things in advance. You see, I need to see those things in advance.
Now, this is what I call my edginess segment.
Yes.
And just as a reminder what edginess means, it's something that you have to do that pushes the edge of your comfort zone. But you've needed to do it in order to achieve the success that you have achieved.
I think what I need to do to push that the edge of that comfort zone is working with young people who are not going to buy this thing that I know what I'm doing. You just did it. They've got questions to ask. They're looking at you with their own way of looking at your story, at your presentation, at what you have to say to them, and they don't have to listen, by the way. Make sure that you... and they know much, much more than you do, and they keep me on my toes. They make me so much more alert and focused, and you can't chill, you can't be relaxed, you can't be too comfortable when you're dealing with young people, and I'm grateful all the time.
There was one thing that you would do differently in your career.
I wish that I would have learned to understand business and have organizational skills earlier in my life. A lot of things that I've had to struggle with and waste days and months on, I wouldn't be wasting that kind of time if I had just done a course. And also, I always believe it's never too late. I might just need to do that.
How do you define success?
That's a difficult question you're asking. I would say success should be something to do the best that you can be at your chosen field. I would say that is success. And you're not even done yet.
You are a leader in your own right, not necessarily of leading people, but leading people, not necessarily employed people, but you're leading people every time you're in a room speaking, and you're moving people to action. How would you define leadership?
You are clear about where you're going, and you point at the goal so that people can actually see it, and leading by example. I would say that is leadership. Also, the humility. I think humility has to be, if they could patent that and then everybody get a teaspoon of that, to be so wonderful.
Some need more than one teaspoon.
Oh, please. So humility is very, very important, because when you lose that humility, or you want to stay a leader all the time, forever and ever, you just lose certain things that you... Because there are all kinds of leaders and different types of qualities that would come to surpass what you have done. You know, when I work with young people, I always say to them, I want you to be better than me. When I work do workshops and I'm working in mentorship programs and what, I always remind them that I want them to be better than me so that I can learn something from them.
What words of wisdom would you give to a 10-year-old daughter?
Words of wisdom to my 10-year-old daughter. I would say, enjoy being young. Be hungry for knowledge. Enjoy being young and be hungry for knowledge.
What's next for you?
The thing I want so much with all my heart right now is to be able to have a big, beautiful structure that is going to be a memory house. A place where ordinary people of all races and all cultures and different backgrounds can come and tell their own stories. An oral history museum. When I get that place going, I want to stay there and run that memory house and frame the passport and just relax and thank God every day and watch people coming in. And I want to have a full-time sound engineer so that another person can come in and say, I was there. 1971, I'm sorry, it never happened like that. I know the truth. And I say, please, I'm so grateful that you know the truth. Come and tell us your version of the truth. Because history has got many faces. It's got many colors and many shapes and sizes.
What words of wisdom can you give to African women?
I would say my words of wisdom I can give to the African women is that we are the backbone of this continent. We're not that rib that they talk about in the Bible. We are the backbone of this continent, and we need to move towards reshaping and redirecting the continent. Because the way it's going right now, it's not going to work for the women of this continent. It's not going to work for the children of this continent. So let's rise up as this backbone that we are of the African continent. That's what I would say.
I don't know if you're tired, but that was truly inspirational. And I do want to see you speak. I want to speak alongside you at some point.
Wow, that'd be lovely.
Again, my name is Suzanne F Stevens, and I co-produce Wisdom Exchange TV alongside my husband, Michael K. Ginwright. We're traveling all over Africa, interviewing women that inspire us to be the best that we can be. And I just want to leave you with my words of wisdom. A story is a story, but a story with a point can move mountains and people. So always have a point to your story. Join us on Facebook, as well as check Wisdom Exchange, the homepage, as there's new information and blogs of experts updated regularly. Thanks for joining us.